Hey, everybody. I think we are live. Welcome to the 3x3 Business Growth Challenge, hosted by me. I'm Krista Mollion. Let me introduce myself briefly to you. So, if you don't know who I am the founder of Unignorable Brands Marketing Agency and From Zero to Six, which is an educational platform for entrepreneurs. And I'm super excited to be here today to talk to you about growing your business. So, when I polled my audience over the past year on LinkedIn, and mind you, I have 67,000 followers right now. So, it's a huge number of people, and I've run several polls. Consistently, the number one challenge that business owners face is how to grow, how to get clients, client acquisition, um, increasing their growth. And so that's why we're hosting this wonderful 3-day challenge. So, over the next 3 days, we are going to be sharing with you 3 strategies from 3 experts that are proven to work for small business owners. So, specifically for people who may not have a large following yet or may not have the means to invest heavily in running ads or having a whole bunch of marketers working for you, you have to get creative. And so today I'm super excited to kick off this 3x3 challenge with day one. Our wonderful speaker. We're going to start off with the best platform out there ever. And I know I'm biased, but I really love LinkedIn. And why do I love LinkedIn so much is because people are there to do business. It's not like Facebook or Instagram where you may just be scrolling, looking for something fun and entertaining. Like, people go to LinkedIn because they're trying to hire people, they're trying to solve their problems. So, really, that's the place where you can get the big money. And the problem is that there's, I think, over a billion users now. So it's crazy what's going on LinkedIn. So you need help. And that's why today I've brought you somebody who's tried and true. His name is John Espirian, and he calls himself the relentlessly helpful LinkedIn nerd, trainer, and consultant. And more importantly, he runs an incredible community on LinkedIn. There's a lot of communities that I'm not very, um, hmm, let's just put it this way. John's community is one of the most legitimate, helpful communities where I learn what's happening on LinkedIn. What are the new features? John really takes good care to make sure everyone knows what's happening on LinkedIn. So that's why, if you're going to grow your business, who better to bring on day one than John Espirian? Okay. So I'm super excited to have John here. And I want to mention before we get started, because I'm sure you want to hear John, please note that this is actually a fundraiser. So, one of the things I'm committed to in 2024 is to use this platform for good. And when I say this platform, I mean social media in general. So, my audience, my email list, my LinkedIn community, I want that I'm doing good things. And this is what I decided to do, was to do this 3-day challenge where we're asking for donations. So if you haven't donated yet, you can still happily donate. In fact, I can put the link up there, and you guys can definitely make a donation if you're interested. I think that it's very important to do good in this world, and social media can sometimes feel a little bit shallow. But if you think about ways to do good, you're going to find some good causes. And the good cause that we are supporting with this challenge that you can still donate to is the Multiple Sclerosis Society. So before we get into it today, I just want to give a shout out to everything that they're doing to help people who have MS. And I want to give a shout out to my good friend, Robert Seeger, who I have known on LinkedIn for the past 4 years, who's an amazing, incredible, kind person, and unfortunately has to deal with MS every day. And there is no cure as of now. So I want to just say that we're going to be raising some money here for the MS Society. And so that's the purpose of this, but also to have some fun and for you guys to learn about growing your business. Now, I want to make one thing clear is that we're doing this over 3 days, and I want you guys to please ask your questions. So even if we don't get to them today for any reason, we will make sure that we get back to you and that we answer your questions. So that's really important to me to make sure you are growing your business, that you have everything you need to grow your business. So here I'm going to drop the link. If you want to donate to this event, you can do so over any day, over any of the 3 days, because it's a good cause. And then you're going to get 3 days of wonderful goodness from our 3 speakers. And also at the end, if you stay till the end, I'm sure they have a few surprises for you on day 3. So let's get into it, shall we? There we go. There's the link. So you can see the link here. It's displaying on the screen here. So we got 3x3 Business Growth Challenge, May 14th, 15th, and 16th. It's always going to be from 3 to 4 p.m. I already see Robert in the comments here. Thank you so much for stopping by, Robert. We're so happy to have you and help a good cause. And I also saw Chris Colt, who is our speaker on day 2, who's in the comments. So this is great. And also, I want to say that you can definitely invite a friend. So if you see the link that we put here, I don't know how to share the link on the screen here. Let me see if I can. So, don't know how to do that, but I definitely will figure it out. I will definitely make sure that the link stays up here on the screen so that we can show you how to invite people. And if they register, then they're going to get invited. They're going to get all the information about all the things that the speakers are sharing over 3 days. And I hope everyone's doing well. If you are watching this right now, please drop a comment in the chat so we know where you're from, where you're tuning in from. One of the things I love about LinkedIn is that it's such an international audience. And we also are not just on LinkedIn. We are big fans of YouTube. We're also big fans of Instagram and Twitter, or X as you call it now. And I just want to say that we've got such an amazing audience here. So thank you, John. John's going to be our speaker for day 1. Let me make an introduction for John. So for anyone who doesn't know him, like I mentioned earlier, he calls himself the relentlessly helpful LinkedIn nerd. And he is also Espresso Plus community leader. He has an amazing book called The Content DNA, which really breaks down a timeless strategy, not a fad thing, that you can use to understand how to build your personal brand using content. And last but not least, he's the organizer of Uplift Live, which is really the first massive in-person LinkedIn event that happened this past spring in the UK, and had some incredible speakers. And unfortunately, I was slotted to go, but I couldn't due to a personal situation that happened. But I'm 100% committed to coming there next year. Wherever they're going to be, I'm going to make sure I'm going to be there. So I wanted to shout him out for that and say just how amazing John has been. And this is what social media should be about, my friends. We should be coming together for good causes. We should be meeting incredible people. And most importantly, we should be doing amazing things. So that's really important if we want to grow and we want to thrive. We can do it together. And that's why I love John's conference so much, because of the name of Uplift Conference, right? Because that's what we should be doing. And there we go. There's the man himself. Welcome, John.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Krista. Thank you for having me as your day 1 speaker. I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, John, you know as well as I do that LinkedIn can change lives. LinkedIn has definitely changed my life, and I would dare to say probably yours, if I'm correct.
Yeah, absolutely. It's where I spend most of my social time. It's where I've now run almost all of my business, and it's where I have all of my most interesting conversations as well. So it's a really big part of my life. Yeah.
So, what attracts you to LinkedIn more than the other platforms? Like, why aren't you hanging out on TikTok all day, John?
I think it's where you can go deeper with people. You can build real relationships. You know, it's not an anonymous platform, and it's set up for business, and people have long-term thinking here. I think, you know, people want to build a brand, have good conversations, make real connections, real relationships over multiple years. You don't tend to see that on other social media. It's a bit more ephemeral there, I think. And so this is the place where I hang out most of the time because I have my best conversations here.
Likewise. So I can second everything that you just said, and it has enabled you to grow your business. Tell us a little bit about your journey of growing your business, because a lot of people start out on LinkedIn and they don't realize the potential. I think a lot of us come
Yeah.
here, for example, for thinking we're going to either get hired or we're going to do some consulting, and then it morphs into some amazing things that we never thought of earlier. So tell me about yours. What happened to
Yeah.
you?
So in brief, I was a copywriter for some years before I really got into LinkedIn, and I was looking for more leads through social media, not getting any results on other platforms. And I just started investing time in producing content here, in building relationships here. And what I realized is that the people who were hiring me through LinkedIn were paying me sort of 30% more than the people who were finding me through Google and hiring me there. So I just realized that, okay, this is the place to hang out. This is where higher paying clients exist. And really started building a personal brand here, sort of 2017 onwards. So it's been 7 years since then. But in that time, you know, I've written a book, I've created a course, I've now run a conference and made relationships with people around the world, including you. We haven't met in person yet, but I probably wouldn't, you know, you would not have come into my life if it weren't for LinkedIn. And I can say that for countless people, North America, South America, Australasia, you name it. It's a global village. And I've made, you know, some of my very best connections here because of that. So all power to LinkedIn for opening that up, that possibility for us all.
So when you started in 2017, you probably wouldn't imagine you'd be running this massive community at this time, or running a
No,
conference, in-person conference.
no, absolutely. And I tell you what, the first 9 months, the first 9 months of creating content on LinkedIn generated pretty much zero for me. I knew that I was producing something of value, but I didn't have a big network. I didn't have visibility. I didn't have a really clear personal brand. And it would have been very easy for me to give up at that point, saying, you know, social media doesn't work or LinkedIn doesn't work. And I see that too often from people. They'll just try something for a few weeks or a couple of months and it doesn't work out and they just give up. And actually, all the people who've had success that I've seen on social media, especially on LinkedIn, are the people who've really done it for years. They've stuck at it for 2, 3, 5 years, and that's where the results come. So, yes, you've mentioned my community a couple of times. Thank you for that. I didn't start that until I was kind of 5 years into my LinkedIn journey. If I tried to rock up on in year one and do that, I don't think anyone would have taken it seriously. So these things take time, and the people who stick at it really are the ones who get results in the long term.
So John, I know I ask it because the audience doesn't know. What did you do that was different than the majority of people that over the years prior to launching your community that built this audience so that when you did launch your community, people were like, "Oh, of course I'll join."
Yeah. Well, the whole element of the main element of my personal brand is this idea of being relentlessly helpful. So trying to put out the highest possible utility content that will help people without any of the fluff, without any of the sales gimmicks, just get to the point and help someone, and just do that on a consistent basis. And also my kind of niche was, because I've got a scientific background, I like doing experiments, and so I like to test stuff and share my results, full transparency. There's no secrets with me. And I think over time, people can go, okay, he's the guy for, specialist knowledge about how LinkedIn really works. And if you keep doing that for long enough, you'll be noticed and remembered and preferred. That's kind of the way I pitch my book. And if you do that for 5 years, when you eventually come to monetize a product or a service, I think there are plenty of people out there who will go, yeah, I believe in that guy. I'm gonna support him and his community.
Well said. I think a lot of people aren't actually doing that. There's tons of people. There's tons of sorry, Ivy. Shh. I have a 7-year-old, just turned 7-year-old, who makes a lot of noise sometimes. So I think a lot of people are showing up here talking about how to grow on LinkedIn, but a lot of it is clickbait. So
Yeah.
there's not a lot of legitimate tips about what people should be doing to nurture real relationships, not to make a quick sale. What would be your number one tip for someone who is not familiar with LinkedIn?
Well, I would always tell them to start off by optimizing their profile so that if someone comes to their home base on LinkedIn, which is what your profile is, you convey very quickly who you're for and maybe who you're not for so that people come to you with the right kind of conversations. So you really need to optimize what is my product or service, who is it for, and what's my differentiator. Those are the things you really need to make clear through your LinkedIn profile. But I suppose that the thing for people looking for visibility is really to try and get yourself into people's feeds via LinkedIn comments. And on LinkedIn, more than anywhere else, comments have a kind of, they're like rocket fuel. They can really get you massive levels of visibility with potential clients, even if you don't have a great following of your own or if you haven't created your own content. So optimizing your profile and then getting busy in the comments, those are the absolute two places to start if you want to get some quick wins on LinkedIn.
Those are amazing tips. And I'm sure people have heard something similar, but what you said was key is that you need to make sure your profile says who you serve and maybe who you don't serve, because a lot of people forget that and they just put out there, I am a copywriter or I am a business coach. But we all should be niching down. And I know that's a controversy. There's some people that don't believe in niching down, but my idea is that you shouldn't be for everybody. You should really get to know a certain audience and then understand their problems, because you can't just take that and do a cookie cutter solution for the whole world. So, would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are a million different logo designers. There are a million virtual assistants. There are a million accountants, and in fact, a lot more than that. So you need something that is a differentiator for you. And it also can't just be a gimmick. It has to be something that is really true for you. Like, let me give you an example. In my case, back in the day, I wanted to be a biochemist. I wanted to be the guy who played with the test tubes and did the experiments. I'm now living that out through the medium of LinkedIn by doing experiments on this software platform. It's not fake. It's something I really invested in doing. And I think so you need to make sure you move beyond a gimmick, but come up with something that is true for you, that you will always be passionate about, stick to, and deliver on a consistent basis so that you stand out from the crowd. And in doing that, niching, as you said, that's the thing that actually unlocks people remembering you and ultimately paying you more for potentially the same deliverable that everyone else is delivering without any kind of memorability assigned to it. So that differentiator unlocks you for the big bucks, if you like.
Okay, so I have to ask this question because I know this is a big struggle for many in the audience. How do you stay consistent, John, without burning out over time?
Well, in my case, I do it because I have so many conversations that I'm never short of questions to answer. So all the time via email, via comments, via direct messages, people are asking things about how LinkedIn works. And so I'm always I've always got a source of ideas. I don't just have to sit there and think, oh, what am I going to post today? There's lots of inputs coming in. So whatever line of business you're in, think about how you can have more conversations with um, your ideal customers or anyone who's remotely interested in your topic, and ask them questions uh, to get them to give you the content ideas that you can talk about. And the more things you can talk about that are directly related to something to do with your process, how you work, the things that people are unsure about, the more you can talk about that, and the more you'll be seen as an expert. So have more conversations as a way of unlocking more questions and using that as your source of everlasting content that you can produce for your LinkedIn presence. Now, I should also say that doesn't just because you're consistent, that doesn't mean you have to post 3 times a day. I mean, consistency might be, I'm going to post 2 times a week forever. Okay. And you just keep turning up. You're that constant voice there. It's got to be a cadence that you can follow. So it doesn't have to be, machine gun content spitting something out every 5 minutes because you see other marketers doing that. It just needs to be something that you can stick to, so that you don't have these massive gaps where, you post 5 times in one week and then you disappear for a few weeks. And, that kind of inconsistency is not great. So just try and stick to something that you can follow on a regular basis.
So something you said is also key is the commenting. It
Hmm.
can be sometimes difficult to know what to say, but ultimately we need to be engaging with other people. It's not just about us. And I want to just take a moment to shout out here Michael Lobsher. John always cuts to the chase and keeps it crystal clear. Great guest, Krista Mollion. Yes, he does. And that's one of the things I like about you so much, John, is that you're no fluff. There's so many people using clickbait and hooks and big words that mean nothing, that mean absolutely nothing. And I'm just like, we just want real practical advice. We want to know the nitty gritty of what we should be doing. So I don't want to just see someone on their soapbox repeating over and over that you have to, you know, build your personal brand. Or it's like, great. Well, now what? You know, so what you said about commenting, some people feel like just showing up and focusing on their own post is enough. So they're monitoring the notifications to see, sometimes refreshing their screen if they're a little bit obsessed to see who has left a new comment and making sure they engage with their own. So they're just focused on their little tiny part of LinkedIn. How can they develop the confidence to go out and explore and leave comments on others' posts? What would you recommend?
Well, I think actually it's a lot easier to start with the commenting before you move into posting your own content. So the example I give in Content DNA is about the idea of consumers and contributors and creators. The consumers are the ones in the art gallery who stand behind the velvet rope and they're just watching the paintings on the wall, and they're not really doing very much. But the contributors are the ones who are putting the lights up and making sure the paintings are straight. They're the ones who are being a bit more visible. And it's only after that that you kind of graduate to being the artist who's actually on the wall themselves. It's easier to get involved in a conversation that someone else has already started, so long as you know something about that topic, so that you turn up and you can say something with authority. And I've lost count of the number of times where I've seen a post, I know the subject matter, I don't know the poster, and I turn up and say something with real substance in the comment, and I'll include a source. For example, if I'm citing a research report or a graph or some kind of data, and I'll say, and here's the source, and here's why this matters, or here's why we might want to question this. So that every time I turn up in the comments, I'm trying to punch hard, so that people, if anyone sees me in the comments, they'll go, who's that guy? And then they'll connect with me and they'll say, I saw you on Krista's post and I found your comment really interesting. Let's connect and keep in touch. That person would not have discovered me if I was just posting on my own feed, because they've never heard of me before. But by kind of piggybacking on other people's posts and adding to the conversation, it's a great way of being discovered. But short, um, comments don't cut the mustard. Salesy comments definitely don't. If you're just turning up in someone, it's like turning up to someone else's dinner party and say, hey, this come to my dinner party instead. Here's the link to my website. You're not going to do that. You've got to show up and support the author, but also give your point of view with as much detail as you can. And if you do that for long enough, people will start noticing you. It's a really, really powerful way of getting visibility.
Just want to shout out someone who has joined us from Las Vegas. So Jillian Whitney, she is an amazing a live streamer as well, and I believe she's a member of your community, and she was a speaker at your event.
Absolutely.
So thank you for stopping by, Jillian. I see that there's some questions. So here we've got Robert who asks, how do you decide on who to piggyback on? I guess comment on or engage with to get more
Yeah, it's
visibility or yeah.
Yeah, for me, this is about picking the right topics. So you can do searches on LinkedIn based on topic. You can do searches based on hashtags. You can look for LinkedIn groups where people are discussing topics that you might be interested in. And, look for spots where the topic being discussed is something that you genuinely know about and you can add some real detail. In an ideal world situation, the best way to look at this is if you find someone who's got a big following, an engaged following, and they've just posted something that you know about, and that post is relatively fresh, doesn't have many comments, that is the golden scenario, because you can turn up with authority, you leave a paragraph of well-researched information, loads of people are going to see that content because the person's already got a big following, and there aren't many comments either, so you're not really competing with a lot of other noise. That's a wonderful way of getting visibility. It doesn't always work out like that, but just look for whatever your subject matter is. If you know about architecture, do a search for architecture, see who's talking about what, and see what kind of things you can challenge or support in your commentary. And that kind of teaches LinkedIn, oh, this guy knows a lot about architecture. He keeps commenting on posts like that. Let's show him more about this. And also by commenting on, if you comment on established people's posts in the field, you kind of get authority by association. Like, you're commenting all over these people's posts. You're not, you're not being rude. You're not being dismissive. You're not being salesy, but you're showing you know what you're talking about, and you're just contributing to the body of knowledge. Over time, that's a really massively powerful thing to do.
Well, if I'm not wrong, isn't that how you kind of built up your community of LinkedIn trainers?
Yeah.
Because you guys are commenting on each other's posts because you both are passionate and knowledgeable about LinkedIn. And that not only creates more visibility from the audience who's already following those individuals for you, like, who's this guy? But it also gains the curiosity of the author and says, hey, maybe I should, start chatting with that person because they seem to know a lot about the topic that I also very much care about. And that can lead to all kinds of possibilities, collaborations, friendships. Just like today, we're collaborating because we met and I established that you are a real legitimate LinkedIn authority in my eyes. And I want to bring your knowledge to my audience and make sure my audience is getting the right advice. And most importantly, save them from all the charlatans who are running around
Mm.
rampant on LinkedIn, pretending to know everything and just collecting money to put them into an engagement pod or we can talk about that another day. But I love that. So I love what you're saying about finding your topic and then really finding who are the people who have an audience built around themselves who talk about that topic and then leaving your 2 cents.
Yes, absolutely. If you're fortunate to work in an industry where there is a relatively collegiate spirit between professionals who work in that field, then a proportion of your time can be spent building those relationships, having those conversations in public. The caveat to that is some people spend all of their time doing that, and in the end, you just talk to your peers all the time. And you never make any sales. So you've got to be careful that you don't just make it 100% of doing that. But also at the other end of the spectrum, if you never do it, if you're fearful that people are going to take away business from you if you share your secrets. That is a very outmoded way of thinking, because you're not going to get discovered, and if you don't tell people what you know, ultimately someone else will, and they'll probably hoover up the business. So not talking to your peers, bad idea. Talking only to your peers, bad idea. The answer is somewhere in between.
Thank you. And I know that we could probably talk for multiple hours because LinkedIn is very complex and there's so many nuances to talk about. But I do want to encourage the audience to drop your comments or your questions for John. And if for some reason we miss out or you end up watching this on a replay, I will make sure that John gets these questions because he's such a helpful person. And there's three more things I want to touch on. Is I'm thinking of trying to present a well-rounded LinkedIn strategy. So we've spoken about optimizing your profile.
Mhm.
We've spoken about intentionally engaging on other people's posts for the key topics that you feel knowledgeable about and want to engage with those people and maybe even connect with them, collaborate with them, but not overdoing it, not just staying around them. So that leads me to another question is if you're on LinkedIn to grow your business, which is a topic of our event, how do you get outside your comfort zone on LinkedIn and start trying to have conversations with your potential customers?
Yeah, so I mean, the direct messages, we haven't talked anything about that, but actually, this is kind of the key part of the jigsaw puzzle. Is you get the visibility through your profile and through your content, through your comments, and you try to move people as much as possible into that direct message sphere, because that's where I've transacted all of my business, where I get all of my referrals, where I get all of my direct business, is when you actually talk to people. And although a lot of people don't see LinkedIn as a social media platform, it actually ticks all of the boxes for being one. And its direct message ecosystem is as good as anything out there, because you can send videos to each other, you can send voice notes to each other, you can do group messages. So it's got all of those facilities, and so many people don't take advantage of them. And possibly because they've been stung by bad approaches from lots of other people. But if you know what you're doing, if you use direct messages intelligently to start non-salesy conversations, um, you can build long-term relationships. The important thing here is to be patient. I've got people who I've been talking to for 18 months or more who I haven't, made any kind of direct approach to, but I know I'm in their head if they need to think of a LinkedIn specialist. And so if the time comes for a referral, if they need a question answered, they want to do me a solid back, or maybe time comes where they actually need training, I'm going to be the guy they come to because I've been helping them behind the scenes. And the way you behave behind the scenes when no one else is watching says a lot about you and your personality. So I know from interacting with you, Krista, you always try to be helpful. You send me voice notes on the regular. You're not spamming me. You're not trying to sell to me. I know that you're a good person because we've been connected for a long time. To me, you're the kind of person I would recommend to others because you've demonstrated to me that you're that person. And I try to do that with others. So use the tools available to you in the direct messages to keep in touch with people. Don't try to leap into sales. Just try to be helpful at every juncture. And also try and look for some opportunity to speak about things that are not necessarily just related to business if you can. This is why I recommend on my profile, if you look at my about statement, I include a section called icebreakers you can talk to me about. And the reason is not all of life is about business. So if you talk to me about football or something that's not related to business, but I put it in my LinkedIn profile, I'm much more likely to remember you. It's kind of the equivalent of going in the old school days where people would go for a round of golf first. You end up doing business together because you've had some kind of personal connection in the first instance. So try and be that person who's open to conversations. You never know where it might lead. And all of my best relationships in business have come about from having that attitude.
So, since the audience may or may not know you as well as I do, I just want to tell them how I have experienced the way you do this. Because a lot of the things that people are hearing today They may have heard bits and pieces from other trainers or other guru type people who I don't know what they call themselves, but the truth is it's a lot of it is in the how you do it. So, for example, you are one of the most pleasant people I've ever engaged with in the DMs.
Very kind.
And
Thank you.
and the reason is you do three things that I think not everyone does. Is number one, you actually read your DMs. So, can we get a shout out for people who actually don't avoid their inbox? You know how many people I meet on a regular basis, John, that tell me, "Oh, I've never checked my LinkedIn DMs." And they're very active on LinkedIn. So I don't know what that says about them. Or or they tell me, "Oh, I have someone managing my inbox and it's someone who doesn't know anything about my friends or my connections and just, you know." So what they're telling me is basically, you know, if you're not buying from me or working directly with me, I don't want to have conversations. And I don't want to be overly judgmental because there are people who legitimately don't have much time. Uh, but I think that it's more not about your time commitment. It's more about a quick word. How long does it take you to just send a voice note? I mean, I've left you many voice notes. You've left me many voice notes when we're like probably busy. We're in the middle of walking somewhere, driving, I'm cooking something. And I'm like, oh, just because I don't want to leave silence, I want to respond. So I've made a habit of trying to respond to, I would say 90% of my DMs. Today, right before this call, I even coached someone for free about their terrible sales approach towards me. And I gave them pointers. I'm like, if you would do this and this, I would definitely want to set up that meeting, but you didn't do those things. And if you do that in the future, you may win my business someday. You see? And so, I take the time. So it's like 10% of people who are just really terrible, I don't answer. But 90% of people, I try to even say a polite, not at this time, no thank you, or now is not a good time, or maybe in the future. Some people I'll say, can you send an email to my team? And I'll give you have a support email, I have a contact email. And then I'll say in a polite way, can you please email this to my team? But the truth is just taking that moment to show people, humans are humans. We want to be acknowledged. And it's not even that you're gonna buy from me, it's just that you took a nice time to ask me how I was. "How are you doing?" Or say, "I was thinking of you," or "I really liked your post it," or sometimes I'll DM people and I'll say, "Thanks for dropping by my post today, because I haven't seen you in a while. How are things going?" And I know you do this very well, so I wanted to kind of elaborate on that because the DMs are tricky for many, and they're not used to it, but I think you've mastered that.
Yeah. It's I suppose it's hard for people because they don't see an immediate payoff for all of that effort that it takes. Because frankly, yes, there are a lot of time wasters. There are a lot of people who spam you and you just think, well, why did I bother even making a connection with this person? But also there are loads of good people out there. So, if you were to just say, okay, I'm not going to bother with my DMs at all because there are spammers, you're missing out on so many opportunities you just don't realize. So yeah, it's a hard one to say, that there might not be any tangible short-term benefit in doing this, but the kind of person who is responsive to their DMs and gives people human answers, in the long run, that's really someone who's got a strong personal brand. It might not happen straight away for you, but in the long run, it really, really does work. So it's just worth doing. And there's a lot of talk in public about fears about AI, and where's the humanity gone. But you don't actually want to do the thing that you're complaining about. It's like, be human with people. If you send someone a voice note or you send them a video, it's really you sending them the thing. You're not using AI. You've got to put some time into these things. But in the long run, you're going to be remembered as the person who, yeah, that person with thousands of followers actually took time out of their day to help me. I'm going to remember that person. And when the opportunity comes for me to pay back that kind of social debt, if you like, I'm going to take it. So it's really powerful if followed through in the long run. If you're just going to sit there and go, I'm going to treat this as a campaign and I'm going to send a voice note to everyone for a month, That's the wrong way. It's kind of a lifestyle change as opposed to a short-term diet.
Or like one person who probably took your advice but didn't understand how to implement it, and
Mm.
recently proudly announced to me that he has cloned himself as an AI with a moving
Yeah.
mouth. And so the mouth
Yeah.
kind of moves, but the head is all cartoony. And
Mhm.
he has recorded one video like, "Nice to meet you. I am so
Yeah.
and so." And he has spammed it to all his new connections. And I was like, "So how's the response rate?" And he's like, "Oh, very low, very low."
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of
It's creepy.
I admire the commitment to kind of process optimization, but if you're gonna do anything that tramples on the humanity of the situation, we still have a universe where there's one-to-one interactions where you can tell that it's a real person. In the future, who knows what might be possible, and maybe we can't tell, but right now we can. And if you give me that attention, I'm gonna wanna give it back to you. That's the important thing.
So I didn't want to cut into our conversation about DMs and voice notes, but I did see that Bob asked a good question. He wanted to know about LinkedIn subscriptions. And as you know, because you're doing all these experiments, a few months ago, or was it already a year ago, LinkedIn made some changes to the premium offering. One of the things they did was restrict how many connection requests you can send or how many DMs, even free DMs you can send. So they were encouraging people, look, you should upgrade to premium. Bob wants to know if the views are down, if it's really if it's very significantly influencing you, if you have a paid account or not.
There's no evidence at the moment that if you don't have a premium business account, that you will have some kind of algorithmic restriction in your views. But that's not to say that that wouldn't happen in the future. LinkedIn's business strategy seems to have been tweaked ever since they hit that magic 1 billion member mark. It's almost as if the shackles came off and they said, we're really going to make some money now. And so all of the new features that they're developing really they're aiming it for premium business or sales navigator customers. Um, so they're really trying to push that. They're now trying to push a premium version of company pages. That's another new another new revenue stream for them. So it's entirely possible that in the future, if you don't have a paid account, that your visibility will be restricted. But right now, there's no good evidence to suggest that that is the case. The differential between a free account and a paid account is increasing all the time, though, in terms of feature set and capability and future development potential. When I got my premium account, which was back in 2021, I'd reached 34,000 followers without paying LinkedIn a penny. So I knew
Mhm.
that organic reach potential was there. I think it's a harder sell to get to that point now. But I think it is still possible. But in the future, it might be the case that you're going to have to pay to play. I hope that it doesn't turn into that, because that will probably turn a lot of people off LinkedIn. And right now, I still see people getting success with the free version of the account. But in the future, that might not be the case.
Well, I used to brag that I've never paid for premium, and I had it for like a free trial, and I was like, I don't see any benefits of this.
Mhm.
These in-mails are something I don't use.
Yeah.
Even now, I'm doing as a CMO, I'm helping with the lead gen efforts in the teams I'm working for, and I'm telling them, I would much prefer that you send a personalized connection request with some personal information about that person, where you saw them, and a nice note, than go through the in-mails. Even if you found them through Sales Navigator, go in and do the old-fashioned way,
Yeah.
because there's something to be said about in-mails being automated now, and all these messages are coming
Mm.
from third-party plugins, and they all are just
Yeah.
I don't even I've never really seen a good in-mail in my inbox.
No, I agree. I agree. But let me give a little message of hope to anyone who thinks, oh no, I'm going to have to pay for LinkedIn to get any results from this thing. Just keep this in mind. Do you have to pay to write a really good profile? No. Do you have to pay to create really good graphics for your content? No. Do you have to pay to write a good comment? No. Do you have to pay to send a really personal DM or a video or a voice note? No. So if you can do all of those things well and on a consistent basis, LinkedIn doesn't need to get any money out of you. Do those basics well, and you'll be well set up.
That advice rings truer than maybe some people here understand, because as a marketer, I work with these big organizations who spend thousands of dollars every month on ads, and who are also working with sales teams who are scraping data from these databases. These tools are upwards of 25, 30,000 US dollars per year membership fee just to use, to
Mm,
find the right prospects information.
mm,
And I was like, well, we have Boolean searches on LinkedIn. We can, even without Sales Navigator, I've been pretty good at finding the right person who I need to reach out to. And it doesn't, speaking of business growth, I really think that unless you're selling widgets, which then you should probably not be on LinkedIn, you should be on Amazon as a vendor or Shopify as a vendor. But if you're a consultant, a coach, an expert, how many customers do you really need? I like to remind people, because there seems to be a trend on LinkedIn whenever we talk about business growth or LinkedIn strategy, it seems to be tied into getting hundreds of thousands of leads. And I like to de-emphasize that and tell my people, come to your senses. How many customers per month could you possibly serve? What's your max? And also, if you tell me you need more and more and more, as a business coach, I'll probably answer that you're undercharging.
yeah.
Because if you are serving a couple of clients, but you're being paid correctly, you should not be hungry. So if you're hungry financially, you need more and more and more, then I wouldn't say you need more customers. I would say you have a pricing strategy problem.
Yeah, good shout. Yeah, definitely. And this was actually a topic that came up at the Uplift Live conferences. One of our speakers was asking people to really think about imagining your absolute ideal customer. How many of those per year would you really need to pay the bills? It's never as many as people really think that they should be chasing. And if you have a long-term view to say, well, I actually need 30 customers over the next few years, most of us can actually do that if we really try hard. So yeah.
Oh, yes. We don't need any paid tools. We don't need scraping. We can do that organically. And if anyone listening wants to know how, I highly recommend following John and considering joining his community if he still has room available, because I know he's not just opening the doors like we talked about for thousands and thousands. So it's more quality over quantity. But I know that you can learn a lot. And to end this well today, I think LinkedIn can feel very overwhelming, and there can be a lot of should have, would have's, like, oh, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. Can we agree that less might be more, but do the
Yeah.
right things? So quality over quantity, but do the right things.
Yes. And one of the
I
good
have to
things
have a
about
meeting.
being in the community is that you can
Oh,
kind of
sweetheart, give me 10 minutes.
talk about, your real struggles with other people who are trying to do the same thing as you. And you can also hold each other accountable, once you commit to the world that you're going to do something, it's a really, really powerful thing to try and work together, share your burdens in a safe space. Um, yeah, I think that kind of thing is really super powerful to get support from other people and to know that you're not in it alone. When I started out on LinkedIn, I didn't really have any advice. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just clicking buttons and trying to make things work. Nowadays, there's a lot of good advice out there. There is, as you kind of alluded to earlier, there is a lot of sketchy advice, and it's hard for someone who doesn't know who an expert is to know whom to trust. But yeah, the people who are trying to give you sensible tips, not hacks. I'm not into that. Um, those are the people who, maybe their advice isn't as sexy as some people's, but if you follow it in the long term, it will get you results. I'm not hearing you right now, Krista. I don't
Oh,
know if
there.
you're on
I put myself on mute because of Ivy, and now I forgot. I wanted to say this has been incredible, and we could talk another hour, but I want to be respectful of your time. I want to thank you for being a wonderful speaker, John. You give so much great advice, and I also wanted to say that if anyone has questions about LinkedIn, please keep them coming. So if you end up watching this on replay, there are people who are going to get follow-up emails from me because they donated and they're going to get access to the replays. Uh, please feel free to reach out to John. So connect with him on LinkedIn. He's very responsive and very generous. But if you're serious about LinkedIn growth, you might want to consider his community. The other thing I would like to mention is we did not get a chance to cover content, like what should we be posting. But on purpose, I didn't want to go into that because um, we have your book, and I think your book is just like you. It's not a fad. It's not trendy. It's timeless. It's just sensible, good advice that I think is still going to be relevant years to come. Even with AI, I think that producing content in a certain way is that appeals to human psychology is not going to go out of style. So your book Content DNA, which we can get on your website, is amazing. Um so yeah, that's what I want to recommend to the audience, and I want to thank you again for coming and encourage everyone to come back for day 2. So let me just wrap this up by making the announcement that today was day 1 of a 3-day business growth challenge. If you have not joined, this is a fundraiser. We are raising money for the MS Society, which you can see on the screen. And by the way, if you want to donate directly, please go ahead by all means. We have nothing to prove. We're just trying to do something good here. And our speakers are very generous to give their time. Uh, so, in any case, we're going to do 2 more days of this. So, today's day 1. Come back on Wednesday and Thursday. If you're watching this live, you can sign up on our website, academy.fromzero to six.com/3x3, 3x3. And you can come there and you can get more information, including the replays. And tomorrow we have Chris Colt, who is going to teach us all about virtual events, which is our second big strategy. So today we covered a little bit about LinkedIn. Tomorrow is virtual events. And then the following day on Thursday, we're going to cover public speaking with Naoxin Chen, who has done a lot of work with public speaking. And I want to say something about all 3 of our speakers. Not only are they good-hearted, generous people who are very, very knowledgeable, but they're also doing this for a good cause. And you have to understand that working with them one-on-one would be very, very different. So they're in high demand. These people are in high demand. So getting their time today to talk to you and over the next 2 days, I couldn't be more blessed and thrilled, and I'm feeling very grateful to have John. So thank you so much, John, for being here today. It was great to have you. And I want to end this also. So saying see you tomorrow. I want to also give a shout out to our producer, who I think is going to make his appearance at some point, Rich Bontrager. If you don't know him, oh, there's the man in person. There he is. To end this the right way, um, every day we should talk about you too. So Rich is a superstar in his own right. So Rich has been staying behind the scenes to help us produce this show today. And so I want to give you a big thank you as well, Rich, for the great job you've done today. I'm really liking everything about this. I hope that audience is seeing the professional quality, how great this is going. And I want to say that Rich has found a way to really make you the rock star of your own life. So we talk about personal brand, but you can be your own media channel. So
Hmm.
Rich really specializes in helping individuals and businesses uh, put their best foot forward on camera and
Yeah.
create their own show, produce their own show. So, Rich, thank you so much.
Well, and we are going to do a bonus event. We are actually going to have a tack onto this. So we're going to invite you back, and Krista is going to invite you to a special event, and we are going to help people learn how to become their own media empire and give you some media strategy tips and how to rock on camera and stage like I do every day and like Krista does. So watch for a special bonus above and beyond the 3-day event, and day one crushes it really well.
Yay! What a wonderful way to end. And we made it just under the hour. So, shout out to John. Shout out to you, Rich. Shout out to everyone who attended live. Thank you to all the generous people who donated to the MS Society. Your donations mean a lot. You will continue to show up for us. So, it's not too late if you want to join this event through your donation. And so you can find out all about it, or you can just donate directly here on the screen to the MS Society. Either way. But tomorrow we've got more stuff planned for you. And what Rich hinted to, the fun just never ends. So wanted to just say that we hope that you'll tune in tomorrow and after tomorrow. We know that you're busy and that your time is very valuable. But I want to tell you the reason I'm hosting this event, and I'll wrap it up, is that I'm very committed. I'm on a mission to help everyone achieve financial and time freedom. I have a story behind that. I'm not going to go into it right now. It is a personal thing, why I feel so strongly about financial and time freedom. But I want you to know that business growth is attainable and accessible to all of you, no matter where you're tuning in from, whether you come from a wealthier country or a poorer country, or you've got different circumstances. I promise you that there are all kinds of possibilities you can't even dream of that are out there for you. Uh, so John talked about that today. He hinted to saying when he started on LinkedIn, he was a copywriter, and before that, he had even a different background. So I think a scientific background. And so you see how you never know where the journey is going to take you. That's the power of online community. That's the power of believing in yourself. So I want to end this the right way by saying that this is a 3x3 business growth strategy challenge because we believe in you and we want you to believe in yourself. And we're here to give you the tools. Okay. So we'll encourage you, we'll give you the knowledge, and we'll give you the support you need. That's what you're going to find here with us, with Chris, with Nausheen, with John, with Rich, and with some of the great people who are in the audience. So thank you so much. Let's wrap it up for today, and I will see you tomorrow. Go to LinkedIn. You saw my name there. If you want to figure out how to join this, you can still join. You can still donate for the next 2 days. We're going to keep this going, and then maybe a little bit beyond. So see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here, everybody.